Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel's Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Oh, infiltrators have gone up though.
Infiltrators have gone up, but they haven't gone up by very much.
10 points.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Please, I was going to say, give us a shout out if you can hear us and everything is okay.
Yeah, audio would be good. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Wow, we've got the screen filled with all sorts of Excel stuff that our lovely BAC community member Smithy worked up for us earlier. Thank you very much, Smithy. Much appreciated.
Yeah, much appreciated. If you want this image, I guess we'll share it as soon as the stream finishes. And
if you want this image, it's in the announcement channel on the Blood Angels Discord right now.
That too, or I suppose you can press the print screen button on your computer, or...
well, yeah, that too. You can write your own in Excel.
Cool. All right, welcome everybody. And
yeah, be nice to Tony. He doesn't know what he's on about today. Very much.
Yeah, but I learned quickly. In the time it's taken you to bugger about, I've read the MetaWatch article and I've just about worked my way through the points document changes with my own notes here.
It took DW 25 minutes to go through the... Oh, who's reading the announcement channel? Fuck you.
It's not that hard. All you do is you put the old points on one side and the new points on the other side and you look at them.
Yeah. It took GW 25 minutes on a video to go through this, and we're going to take a lot longer. It took Art of War 3 hours to go through the entire balance document and the points.
It's not going to take me that long.
So we're not going to be here for 3 hours. I've got my special drink ready for this evening. It's a bit salty, but hopefully it will be quite tasty. Oh, yeah. Did you not see that?
I saw it.
Yes.
Tasty stuff. Yeah.
I wish I'd thought about it. I wish I'd thought about that.
I want to get this out of the way straight away.
Yeah.
I reckon this has made almost no difference to Eldar players.
Oh, it's made a teeny bit of difference.
I think the changes to Devastating Wounds has made more of a difference than anything else.
And
that wasn't even targeted at them. They're going to bring one less thing than they previously did.
The vast majority of Eldar players I know who are reasonable are looking at this going, phew, we expected to be beaten down a lot harder. Thank you very much, GW.
There's that meme that was going around for a while, which had a picture of like Eldar at the top of the meta, and then it, like GW with the Nerf bat, and they swing around Miss Eldar and hit Custodes again. You know?
Wouldn't shock me.
I was going to say maybe that's what's happened.
It's like the Gene Stealer Colts and Custodes got absolutely slapped. GSC got absolutely smashed, and Eldar got gently.
I'm really glad that they did, because that infinite respawning bollocks was pretty bollocks, to be honest.
That was mental.
Yeah.
It did make me laugh that the biggest boogeyman had the some of the gentlest touch, and
Thousand Suns obviously got nerfed a little bit. Sorry, here.
Thousand Suns took a smack. Everybody took a smack in a lot of ways, except for points.
If you're a member, please feel free to use your free super chat, and it will pop up, and we will be hard pressed to ignore it, and we will not ignore it. We'll read it out and answer it, and all that sort of stuff. If you don't know how to do your free super chat thing, then ask in chat, and somebody will help you, because there's somebody in chat who's useful. I'm sure somewhere. I'm not sure who, but somebody is.
Yeah, and please like the stream at some point if you get some value out of it. Where do you want to start? You want to talk about the Blood Angels changes first, or
can I make a suggestion? Let's talk about the generic changes to the core rules, because that affects absolutely everything.
Start with the balance slate, and then just sort of go through it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Before we start concentrating on points, because the actual game itself has changed, which is pretty big news.
Actual core rules changes, you're absolutely right, yeah.
You don't see those core rules changes 2.5 months out the edition come is pretty astounding, really.
Which, even though they're not core rules errata or anything, they have changed the entries in the app. So if you look up Devastating Wounds in the app now, it actually reads what this says.
I wondered if they were going to do that, but they've already done it, have they?
Yeah, it's all in there.
Yeah, and if you do use the free app, you still get to create one army list.
Yeah. Yes. If you've got more army lists in there, then you can keep them unless you delete them. But
I did notice that if you've got the paid app you still have to buy the codexes if you want stuff in it.
That is true. Currently,
the
nobody
codex
has
comes out.
access to Tyranids except people who got given it early and have the code that they redeemed early and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But for now, Tyranids, just like in 9th edition, have been paywalled behind what's in the codex. Even the free index stuff is all gone. So, yeah.
So yeah, that whole they're free, and the codex was just going to add a couple more detachments, and that was lying.
Which realistically means that Space Marines are going to go the same way in a few weeks. So be aware. I wonder if they're going to take the free index download off the website.
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Maybe.
Or are they going to update it, or are they going to just take it down? Or...
Guess we'll find out. Anyway,
right.
Devastating wounds. They're not mortal wounds anymore. But they do ignore all saves of all kinds, invulnerable or normal saves in any way, shape, or form. And once they hit a model, they don't spill over. Any leftover damage doesn't spill over. So it is just like a devastating hit now.
I quite like this change because it means that hits that only had things with devastating wounds 1, which didn't spill over anyway, now have that chance of like punching straight through whatever they were hitting.
Yep.
So that's indirectly, I feel like it's in some ways a little bit of a buff to those units because they're worth exact saves against mortal wounds. But at the same time, it prevents you from spilling over with the really big guns and wiping out whole squads. It would have been cool to let your railgun, line up all of the target and just kill them all in a line, which is thematic but not very balanced. So I think this is a really good change. It's hit some armies harder than others, both on both sides of it, because armies that had a lot of access to devastating wounds and big guns, well, they're not going to be as effective as they were. And likewise, armies with protection against mortals have also been hit because this is probably the main source of mortal wounds in the game.
Yeah, it's not the only source, but it's definitely
the only source, but it's probably the most common. So it's an interesting change, but I think it's a good one, if I'm honest.
Yeah. We got a super chat from Mike Paints Red. How many Lancers does John want me to paint now? Smiley face.
I think none. I don't think I knew Lancers were going up. We'll come to Lancers when we come to it. I was wanting to say about this devastating wounds change. Do you think that just, for me, it just kills Thunderhammers completely? Because Thunderhammers obviously have devastating wounds, but the caveat...
Did what, 2 damage? So they weren't exactly doing splash damage anyway. Therefore, the functional change for a Thunderhammer's output is irrelevant, really.
Yeah,
right?
I actually think the completely ignoring any saves and bypassing the protection from mortals makes them a bit better on Thunderhammers than they were.
You think? Okay, I thought
especially in some targets. I know we've been talking a lot about Custodes lately because, spoiler alert, we were supposed to be releasing the Custodes episode tonight, but this has completely fucked that.
Yep.
We've been talking about them with their 4-up save against all mortals. Well, now all of a sudden, your Thunderhammers go straight through Custodians. No saves. They just be dead.
Yep.
Whereas before they had a 4-up save.
Interesting, I suppose. Yeah.
I still don't think I want to take Thunderhammers, but
no,
I don't think it makes much difference to them.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that maybe because they aren't mortals anymore and because they don't splash, then you Power Fists, because Power Fists typically get a better weapon skill now. I was like, would I rather have one better weapon skill, or would I rather just have an unsavable hit? And I was like,
I think it's going to depend on who you're going into. But generally, sure, I'll go the same. I'd rather go with the Power Fist for kind of all-purpose. But I think there is now some utility to Thunderhammers that is different to what it previously was.
Yeah.
I think previously Thunderhammers were basic. I haven't run Thunderhammers really, apart from the fact that I've got a couple modelled.
I think I'd rather hit on 3s with the Power Fist than hit on 4s with the Thunderhammer and have dev wounds, ultimately.
Yeah, I think that was what I was alluding to, because I can't remember who I was fighting, but I was fighting someone that made me -1 to hit. And when those Thunderhammers hit on 5s, to me it didn't matter that the Death Company got to re-roll to hit. It's like you're only hitting on 5s, a re-roll to hit. You can still completely whiff an entire combat with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which felt really rough. Okay. Stratagems that cannot be used more than once per phase. Is that where we're going next?
It's the one below that, so it's down in columns. So the next one is modifying a stratagem's CP cost. Modifying the CP cost for stratagem when it targets multiple units. I've never really seen that affect anything personally, so I have no idea what that's meant to affect. The second paragraph, though, rules that modify the CP cost of a stratagem, like the captain's rights of battle that allows you to play a stratagem for free, but doesn't specify a particular stratagem by name, will now only work on battle tactic stratagems. So Azurman, the Eldar Phoenix Lord, specifically allows you to use Overwatch for free, can still use Overwatch. But the captain, who says you can use any stratagem, can now only use battle tactic stratagems. For those of you who are members of the Blood Angels Discord, I have listed which stratagems qualify as battle tactic stratagems in the FAQs channel for you to refer to at any given point. The core rules is only 2. There's Command, CP Reroll, and Go to Ground. Armor of Contempt is a battle tactic stratagem, so I'm sure that'll be happy for you, John, in that case.
Yeah, and Red Rampage and Aggressive Onslaught.
Yeah, and another couple in Codex Space Marines, I think. I just can't remember what they are off the top of my head because I've closed down Discord because I don't like it beeping in my ear when I'm streaming.
Has anyone actually used Go to Ground?
It was used against me yesterday when I was playing Knights versus Genestealer cults.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Because they were ridiculously powerful guns, like -4 AP and stuff.
This is a much more wide-reaching and important change than it initially seems. There's a lot of armies that rely quite heavily on this mechanic.
Yeah,
this kind of free strat and being able to use multiple in a turn of this, use a strat twice in a turn, and this sort of thing. This has been really quite
a staple for custodies, as I understand it.
Well, absolutely, it's another one of those classic. We don't want custodies. John's way of dealing with tanks as custodies has completely gone out the window. But yeah, they got fucked by that. And then there's another change we're about to talk of. Another core rule hit them again hard. But it's really quite interesting because I was certainly building a lot of things like captains and things like that just to get those extra uses of the strats, and that's gone. Poor Grey Knights, their ability that lets you use a strat for free only works once per game anyway, and now not only works once per game, now is restricted to battle tactics.
And they've changed one of the ones that was a battle tactic to not be a battle tactic as well, off the back of that.
And we've also seen that's happened a few times. Some of the battle tactics have been moved out of battle tactics so that they can't benefit from this rule, which has been harsh, to be honest, because I think the main people this affected
repeated rapid ingress. Yeah,
I think the main people this impacted weren't particularly doing very well anyway. So I'm not quite sure why they made this change, to be honest.
I think they said, well, in the MetaWatch article, he said it was because custodies were putting I don't know which character is, but a character with like a 10-man block of Custodian Guard, and every time they got charged playing the fight first stratagem, so they were fighting first with 10 Custodian Guard and obviously wiping whoever, and then because you charge them 2 places, they would do the exact same thing and do it again, basically.
Yeah, they were. So what they did with it is remove it from battle tactics so it doesn't work on it. And then,
Someone has mentioned in chat that Captain's stratagem ability does not work on command point reroll. Yes, we know. However, modifying a stratagem CP cost also includes when you use things like a Collectus Assassin to increase the cost of a stratagem CP cost. And they can still use that on command point reroll. But the list of things that they can use it on is now greatly restricted based on what they're playing against because it has to be a battle tactic type stratagem. So that's the thing.
Interesting.
Overwatch, big change.
Yeah, we skipped one. We've skipped something there, haven't we?
No, it's all part of the same stratagem thing.
Oh no, yes, you're right. Yes. Overwatch.
You now have to be visible. No overwatching from out of line of sight.
This is a big change for some weapons, but what it doesn't do is fix the torrent problem.
You think
because all you do is use it at the beginning of your opponent's movement or whatever, when you can see them.
I think this is more for is this not for more like Desolation Marines or Sisters of Our Exorcists?
Marines, Hive Guard, all sorts of things that would Overwatch you from out of line of sight, basically, that were a little bit oppressive and non-interactive.
I don't think that they were nearly as oppressive as the squad of 10 Flamers or
Your 10 flamers have to be out in the open and be visible and be vulnerable, whereas Exorcist can be 24 inches back behind a wall, overwatching you and killing you.
I can't remember how many shots an Exorcist. It's got 2 or 3d6, something like that. It's not got a lot of shots.
It killed my Predator tank from indirect last night in Overwatch.
Yeah, but it statistically doesn't do that every time, does it?
No, but that's what they're.
But a unit of like 10 Warp Flamers does.
Their range is also generally a lot more limited.
Yeah.
I think if you're up in your opponent's face with flamers, then Overwatch is fair. What's not fair is like killing stuff with Desolation Marines from 24 inches away that you can't interact with in any way, shape, or form.
The other new restriction is that anything with the Titanic keyword cannot fire Overwatch.
Yeah, so sorry, Knights players, you don't get Overwatch anymore.
I think that I thought about this.
Could fuck so hard in
could
this.
they not have just done
in so many ways?
Could they not have just done like if your model costs more than 200 points, your Overwatch costs 2 CP? Would that not have been a better way to do this?
They haven't. They've done this instead.
I think that would. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that I agree with Knights not getting any form of Overwatch. I just think charge them more because they've got a lot more guns on the same platform. But that's fine. That's what they've done.
Yeah, you might be right, but this is what we got to live with for at least until the end of January, unless they decide they've broken things enough in the meantime to change things again.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Insane Bravery has changed quite a lot now. It's now once per game. And you have to use it before the Battleshock test is rolled.
Yeah, it's a weird one because you used to use Insane Bravery in a situation where you desperately needed to keep a unit alive. And if I'm incorrect, it used to cost 2 CP, right? It never used to cost 1.
But you could use it after it was rolled as well.
This is like a hybrid between the Insane Bravery of 10th and the Insane Bravery of 9th. So
yeah,
you can only use it once. You have to do it beforehand. It will still save a unit, but it's not reactive anymore.
You've got to decide if that unit's worth spending before making the roll or not.
Yeah, you got one guy sitting on an objective that you really need to hold that objective in turn 5, then you'll use this. And probably what would have happened before is you'd roll the dice if you failed it, use this. So I don't think this changes too much. You just
I hate it.
Well, you have to be smart.
As I understand, for armies like Tyranids that just force Battleshock all over the place, and then you can come to your the command phase and then just take tests for everything, or they recover straight away from their Battleshock tests. Then it makes it a little bit more effective for for Battleshock related abilities.
It's made Battleshock it has made Battleshock more powerful. But it's one that's had a more significant effect on things that have less models or less units. Because the way they changed the leadership, meaning that the leadership's capped now basically to 5. There's nothing, I don't think it's got any better than a 5. And even really elite things are still on a 6.
If you're suffering from Battleshock, it's a lot less trivial to ignore it.
It's a lot less trivial to ignore it, but it also means if you've not got many units and they're all very, very important, then building heavily into Battleshock armies has an incredibly powerful effect on those particular armies.
Yep.
So, one of the changes we've already talked about with the change to the reusing strats more than once. Well, one of the core things for that was with the Custodes armies doing that because they've only got leadership of 6, got the same leadership as Space Marines. So what you'd do is you'd use your captain's free thing to Insane Bravery it so that you didn't lose all of your scoring potential whenever someone did Battleshock. But you can't do that anymore. So if you're building quite an elite army, Custodes, Deathwatch, any kind of Raven Wing would be the same boat. Knights would be in the same boat. Anything that's got small numbers of units has now become far more vulnerable to Battleshock.
Okay.
So it's had a big impact there. It's not had a big impact if you've got a huge army. But
Which might be nice because Battleshock's, in my experience so far, been relatively ineffective and not that impactful. So,
so I don't necessarily think it's a bad change, but it is a big change. A lot bigger than I think people are giving it credit for.
Oh, yeah. Like, subscribe. If you like what we do, if you like our output, if you value what we say, consider joining us on YouTube and following us and subscribing to us and all that kind of jazz. It does help us out an awful lot and help us put these things out. So your support is greatly appreciated if you do. Awesome.
Yeah, Foz said in chat that you
YouTube members. Yeah, your colouring on your thing has gone all inverted, so it's not a white background on the PDF; it's a black background.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Foz was saying that you can reroll Battleshock, but I don't think you can.
No,
It doesn't mention it in the command reroll section. Sorry, I'm in dark mode. If people really hate it, I can change it. Just
Are you a little bit worse for wear?
Just visual migraines.
Fair enough. No worries. The next change is to ruins and towering. And the change is that towering models can no longer just see through ruins. Great.
Yeah, I think this one is a fair change, to be honest, and because no change was going to be popular.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's reasonable to say if you can see them, then they can see you. So it's a bit of a return to towing into cover.
Yep.
So that you can see out and they
is.
can. And I don't necessarily think any solution would have been happy for everybody, but I think at least this one's fair. If you can see them, they can see you.
It's still wholly within this terrain feature.
It's wholly within for everything that isn't towering.
So if you have a dreadnought that's 99% in the terrain, but a 1mm of his base is overhanging out of the terrain, if the 1mm base is hanging on the wrong side to see the model, you can't shoot it. I'm not sure I like that.
No, you can shoot it. It can't shoot out.
Yeah. Well, if the 1mm is hanging out on the side the enemy is, then it can shoot that enemy because it's got line of sight from that 1mm bit. Right?
If it's within the terrain feature, it can be shot if you can draw line of sight to it. If it's wholly within, it can also shoot out.
Yeah, but I still don't like that change.
I think it's an important one for the towering models.
It's good for the towering. I just think it's silly that a dreadnought could get like you could even like 99.9%. What there's 1mm of his base sticking out, and then because of that, it can't shoot out the terrain. I don't love that.
I agree. It's different to how it was, but it is also how it is now.
I thought they would fix that.
I don't know how they could though, to be honest, John.
It's clearly a deliberate change. I'm not sure it's broken the game, to be fair.
No, I suppose not. It's just frustrating, I suppose, sometimes. Yeah. Okay.
That's all of the core rules changes.
Should we have a quick look at the faction rule changes?
Yeah, we can skip through them. Most of them we're not going to go into too much detail for because we're not massive experts on all the factions.
No, but there's been a couple that have affected factions that we've talked about in the past, which I think that's probably worth talking about.
Obviously, you're a custodians expert, Tony.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know that sounds a little bit strange. We recorded an episode that was coming out about this, and one of the things that we talked about in it was the main kind of anti-tank way you have to play as Custodes was to use a big unit, buff it up a lot, and then just get a lot of hits using lethal hits, and that's to try and get through heavy armor. And this has said, no, you can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it has made it so that you can't build a big Death Star unit and it become completely unassailable, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
It does mean that melee armies have now got slightly more of a chance at melee and Custodes, which is probably an improvement for those melee armies. The thing that I feel with it, though, is I would still not want to melee Custodes.
Which stratagem was the Unwavering Sentinels stratagem?
That's the one with this fight first.
Okay. So you can now use that like once per turn. It's 2 CP, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. But I still want to charge them. Even though I can't run a unit of 10 of them, if I'm playing with my Blood Angels, I'm not going to build a melee. I don't think this makes melee Blood Angels viable, basically, is what I'm saying. Because, yes, okay, they're slightly better than they were into Custodes.
What it does is it makes it a little bit less oppressive.
It does.
Which is
but what I mean by it is I don't see people... I don't think it's going to make any difference to how oppressive it was. Is what I'm trying to say. It's weaker against those melee armies, right? If I built a full melee Golden Host Blood Angels army, suddenly I've got a much better chance into Custodians. But nobody's building an all melee Golden Host Blood Angels army, because although it's now better into custodians, which was a problem, it's still shit into everything else.
Everything else that runs heavy armor, or
everything else that's running heavy armor, because
armor.
Heavy armor, as we've talked about before, is still absolutely the way to play. So what I mean by this is I don't think it's got that much of an effect. Unless you're playing a friendly with your mate and all he likes to run is melee infantry, then this is going to, and you're playing custodians, it's going to have a huge impact. But if you're going to a tournament or something, then the same sort of, you wouldn't spec into melee infantry anyway, would you? At the moment.
Not at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was Custode's win rate before this? Because I feel like they've been hit pretty hard.
Well, it was 60%, but we talked about this. I know, again, this hasn't come out yet. We talked about it on the in the episode. It's 60% because they're winning so they're winning 3 out of 5 games.
Yeah,
because they either win or they lose.
But rarely
not winning
5 out of 5.
Yeah, they're not going 5 out of 5. They're not winning tournaments. What's happening is that they're winning when they go into certain armies and they're losing against other ones.
Yeah, maybe it gives World Eaters more options.
It certainly gives World Eaters more options.
I still wouldn't like to fight World Eaters and Custodes. I think that they would do enough damage with their Unwavering Sentinels every time to dissuade any of your charges.
Well, they can't do it every time, but it's still, even 5 Custodian Guards, if you charge them, they're still going to make a bit of a mess.
I was going to say, well, I mean, you'll do it 5 times throughout the game, so 5 times you charge, you have to lose half your unit before you get to fight.
Is that basically the changes on Custodians?
So the change to smaller units, they've lost that flexibility that they had to bring in odd numbers of units, which was a big change. So versus Praetors, because those bikes are broken, they can only run small units now as well. That's an important change.
Yeah, clearly.
Right, so that was the main sort of changes. So they're fairly ineffectual except against matchups that aren't happening.
Okay. AdMech, I think we're probably going to skip over because we don't really know it in too much detail.
Phantasm's a huge change.
It is, because it now means that things like Fire Prisms can no longer just not be where they were, or Wraith Knights that you were wanting to attack can no longer not be where they were before you were attacking them. And now only infantry can do it. However, that still includes things like Wraith Guard and Wraith Blades.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big change, but I'm not sure it really went far enough.
What else can you do to that particular stratagem other than take it out of the book completely?
Make it more CP.
Maybe.
Well, they did get like 10% point increases.
Loads of people keep saying this, so I'm going to address it now. And if anybody says it again, I'm going to point you to scroll back in the video and do it. Feel No Pain versus Dev Wounds. Feel No Pain works perfectly well against devastating wounds, just like it always used to and always did. Feel No Pain versus Mortal Wounds that used to work on devastating wounds now doesn't. That's it. I don't know why people were getting all bent over. I think no longer working on devastating wounds.
I think in that case, he probably means the Feel No Pain for us Custodes doesn't work against mortal wounds because their one specifically says mortal wounds. That's the confusing thing with Feel No Pain.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes Feel No Pain says against mortal wounds, sometimes Feel No Pain just says everything, right? So they probably actually need to break that up. Like a Feel No Pain and Feel No Mortals might actually be a better way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Agents of the Imperium is a big change to a small unit.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's no longer 35 points for 5 models. It's now 110 points for 10 models.
Sure, but why don't you just run Voidsman for 5 more points? Because that's
but
what everybody
it's
was.
Meant that this unit is basically never going to be seen again.
Before this unit came out, everyone was running Voidsman at 40 points.
Yeah. And now
so I
don't.
Well, yeah, I guess Voidsmen are 50 now, but I don't think that this changes much. Just anyone that was running these
models are now going from sold out everywhere to you might be able to pick some up if you want some.
Yeah, because for this unit, it's a huge change because it's gone from auto take to no, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Over 2 months or however long it's been. Has it been 2 months?
But I think before that, everybody was doing Voidsmen, so surely everybody will just go back to Voidsmen.
If they want to do that.
Yeah, but if they've just spent a load of money buying a unit of 5 exaction squads, they're going to be pretty pissed off.
Or 10, because you can only buy them in 10s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but you might have built 5 of them as that and 5 of them as something else or
That's
whatever.
Apparently,
and now you've got units you can't play anymore.
Apparently
Death Guard, huge change.
has made them really, really good, apparently, along with all the points drops they've gotten.
I think this is the biggest single change we saw. They've got an extra rule.
Yep. That they choose before the game starts and is active for the whole game. So you get to pick based on who or what you're going into. And the 3 different rules there are pretty tasty.
Yeah, if you're playing Tau, sorry Tau, but you're buggered. Because everybody in your army now hits on a 5.
When they're within contagion range, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Worsen the OC of enemy models by 1.
Yep.
Oh, to a minimum of 1. Okay, right.
Yep.
So you can't make people OC 0. Sorry.
Or worsen the save of things by 1. So 2-ups go to 3-ups.
See, with like an army like Blood Angels, I would remove their ballistic skill and weapon skill.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about those Thunderhammers. If Death Guard just go like...
Yeah, totally agree.
Right, you can only hit me on 5s with Thunderhammers, then you're just like, whoa, my Thunderhammers are useless.
This is a huge buff to them. When you combine this with the points drops, which were gigantic. I mean, I still think we're probably going to see the same list as we were seeing, which is really heavy on demon engines, but it has made some other ones slightly more viable. But now a heavy demon engine with their ridiculously cheap demon engines and some of these contagions, I think that could be quite powerful, really. I think that could be quite scary.
If you're measuring something on the scale of Tactical Marines to Gabriel Seth, which end is the shit end?
That's just saying between something that's shit and something that's shit.
Yeah.
Where does this fit?
I think you could get 60 Plague Marines now for less than 1,000 points as well.
Yeah.
Might be right. Not sure.
I think they're 160 a squad, so it's like 960 for 60 Plague Marines. Now, they're battle lines, that's as most you could take. But you could take 60 Plague Marines Mortarian, like 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, and basically you just have the Plague Marines run up the board and nerf the crap out your opponent's ballistic and weapon skill everywhere.
Are you waving a spray can in and out of the...
Sorry, no, I'm just playing with my warball, sorry.
That's cool. I was just wondering what this thing coming in and out of the camera was.
Sorry.
Quite make it out.
I'm just having a quick look at their points costs, and they're really quite cheap. I mean, we'll talk about points cost separately in a minute.
We'll get to that in a bit. Deathwatch, their special ammo stratagems have all been changed to bolt weapons only.
Which makes sense, because you shouldn't be able to shoot Kraken rounds out of a las cannon.
Or a heavy flamer, but you could, and now you can't. So yeah, you now cannot use these stratagems on all of what were their best guns, and now just use it on all their bolt guns.
Gene Stealer Colts. Now, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. You played them last night, Mark.
I played them a couple of times. No, what did I play last night? I played Salamanders last night. I played Gene Stealer Colts a couple of weeks beforehand. Essentially, anything that was battle line got to automatically come back to life as a blip with Gene Stealer Cults, and now they're on a dice roll along with everything else, with a +1 to come back if they're battle line, and a +1 to come back if they're trying to come back during the first or second battle round. And the roll you need is a 5-up. So battle line, trying to come back in turns 1 or 2, could come back on a 3-up. Other than that, it could be a 4-up, or non-battle line during the first or second turn would be on a 4-up. Which means no more infinitely guaranteed respawning Gene Stealer bullshit. And now it's just, you're probably going to get maybe half of the respawns over the course of the game, give or take.
Considering most people only kill 1 or 2 units in turn 1, then you're right, it's about half. Maybe even slightly less. Which I think is good.
Yeah, I like it. The infinite respawning was... I mean, okay, they're Gene Stealer cultists. You wouldn't think they're amazing, but in volume and just deep striking into places and attacking you from nowhere with completely disposable troops that they know they're going to get back after you kill them, this wasn't great.
It wasn't a great mechanic. I'm not sure how much I like the change, though, because it seems that it has a significantly different impact depending on whether you're going first or second. And I don't think that's what you really want, because the way you come back from the cult ambush means if you go first and you come back, then not a lot's changed apart from the fact it's slightly harder to come back. But if you're going second, you're going to get your stuff the
You're only
next
going to have
turn.
one turn to do it during a +1 rather than 2 turns to do it with a +1. Yeah.
Yeah, so now you've got a situation where if you go second, you're additionally penalised for having the misfortune of rolling a slightly lower dice at the beginning of the game. And
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a good mechanic if it
That's fair.
significantly changes how your army works because of the dice roll for the... So yeah, I don't like that. I think it needed to change because the got ambush rule was broken, but that's perhaps not the best way of doing it. Maybe say first, second, third if you go second, or
Well, we'll have to see how it goes.
yeah, I don't like that change. I don't think that's very fair.
Yeah, maybe it should have been something a bit more uniform, like Surf Song saying in the chat. Maybe it should have just been like every third unit that dies or something. That's the unit that gets to respawn, and they can respawn guaranteed. So that you don't get a situation where you just made all your 5-ups in one game and you make no 5-ups in the next
Or a
game.
limited number of respawns based on your army that you could use and then not get. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe. The Grey Knights change. That stratagem was a stratagem that allowed a unit to become lone operatives.
Yep.
So that is now no longer a battle tactic and now a strategic ploy. So a Grey Knight captain can no longer use it for free.
Absolutely, which means that the Grey Knights, because they were broken before, are now starting to come back in line.
Indeed. We are indeed live, Rez.
No, what are you talking about, Mark? We're not live tonight.
Are we not? Oh, no, it's pre-recorded.
No.
We can't read anything that anybody's saying or answer any questions whatsoever. Yeah.
Does this put Grey Knights back in line? Because when I looked at their list, they get
People
nothing.
don't read my announcements.
No, I
What
was
are you saying?
taking the piss, John. Grey Knights are shit.
I was going to say the Grey Knights have nothing that can kill armor except mortal wounds.
I know. They're terrible. So giving them a nerf was what they needed.
Because I was watching Helmstorm's stream earlier, and he was like, Grey Knights, you're going to get so many more models. And I was like, but they've got nothing that kills armor. Like, literally nothing.
Giving them so many more models, but still not having any good guns on those models is...
I imagine their Land Raider's gone down, along with everybody else's.
Oh, true, maybe. Okay, so which Grey Knight players do you know that are running Land Raiders?
I don't know many Grey Knight players at the moment.
Okay. I've never seen a Grey Knight player take Land
Grey
Raider.
Knights are still in big trouble at the moment. As are
Imperial
Votann.
Knights.
Oh, and... Sorry, I missed Knights. Go on, you talk about Knights for a second.
Knights, this is the second phase of their absolute ramming that they took in this balanced data slate and points updates. Their bondsman abilities at Questoris could give armigers, used to affect both the armigers and the Questoris Knights. Now they don't affect the Questoris Knights. So your Lancer can now no longer benefit from the bondsman ability. The Warden that gave -1 damage to the armigers can no longer benefit from -1 damage himself.
Yeah.
And apparently GW said this is to do with making parity with Chaos Knights.
But the whole point was that Chaos Knights had more power themselves, but didn't share their power as well. And Imperial Knights weren't as powerful, but could share it better.
Yeah. There we go.
So, so sorry, Knights players, you got stiffed again.
Yeah, anything that had a bondsman ability. So if the Cerastus chassis had a bondsman ability, then it doesn't. No, it's not a Questoris. I don't know, whatever. Thunder Stomp changing to Epic Deed means it's no longer a battle tactic, which I don't think anybody in the Imperial Knights really cared about too much. Trophy Claim going up to 2 CP, Valiant Last Stand going up to 2 CP. Valiant Last Stand was cool because as a fight on death, you could do it. You didn't have to declare it at the start of the phase. You could do it when the model died, and if they hadn't fought, then they could fight. Trophy Claim was an interesting strat whereby you spent a CP, you get +1 to wound against shooting something, and if it dies, you get your CP back, and then you can use the stratagem again later. If it didn't die, you don't get the CP back, and then you can't use that stratagem ever again through the game. So buffing it to 2 CP, you spend 2, you get 1 back if you kill the unit you're shooting at.
Yeah.
Means you're probably never going to use this.
So I just replied to DTM's comment. You are right. They didn't build Chaos Knights properly for the beginning of 10th. It worked. I personally think the 9th edition Chaos Knight and Imperial Knights Codex were far superior to the 10th edition indexes. I think that they had much more flavour than they do now.
I remain solidly of the opinion that 9th Ed should have continued for another year, and 10th at least, and 10th Ed should not now be in existence. But, well, yeah.
Is what it is. We've got to do what we got, haven't we?
Indeed. Leagues. I understand this is buff. I don't know how, because I haven't read their index at all.
Leagues have given 2 buffs, really. The first one...
below Blood Angels in the league tables and all that sort of shit.
Because they come out in 9th a bit broken, and then they've come out in 10th a bit broken in the opposite direction. They're utterly garbage.
James Wilson's apology video was still amazing.
It was very funny.
Temps came
now
out
effectively
GW had a financial year forecast where they said we need to release it every 3 years, but COVID screwed everything up. Anyway, so
effectively, when the Leagues of Votann get more judgment tokens than they did before, but they only get a couple more judgment tokens than they did before. And really, the way they've tried to balance in the Leagues of Votann is by making them so incredibly cheap that you can run them as a horde.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's got a horde of Leagues of Votann.
Oh,
they've only got 13 units or something in their entire index. So, and they're all monopose models.
Yeah.
So what they've said is, if you like, now to make them more playable, you can buy twice as many.
Sounds like GW.
And have an army that's huge of identical models because you've only got a few different units in your entire codex.
Mm-hmm.
And this change to ruthless efficiency, I just don't see it making enough of a difference or any difference realistically over the whole thing. It's a minor buff, but they're still crap.
You might be right. You might be wrong. I don't know. I'm not.
Somebody said that starting more tokens doesn't actually make a difference. What they needed was more ways to generate tokens throughout the game. But I haven't played against Votann once in 10th edition, so I don't know if that's true.
They're really shite at the moment.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Okay, DTM. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but it's still big old points drops.
Space Marines, Desolators, nerfed fuck.
Well, you can run a unit of 5, which is I think
at maximum, and they've gone up in points as well. So,
so if you got 30,
do we know anybody who had 30? Do we know anybody who had more than 15, John?
Well, I had 15.
Yeah, just
so
15.
Not more, just 15. But the thing is, I never played them once since they went up in from 24 points per model.
Now, if you want to run all 15, that'll be 600 of your finest points,
which is ridiculous.
I just don't think they're that good.
They're not. They're not good at all. They're only strength 10. The thing that made them too good was the bolter discipline shenanigans. And that's why they've made this change. It's the same thing. It's like the stacking and the command points.
I can't help but think, wouldn't it have been easier just to stop it stacking with bolter discipline?
Yeah, because the bolter discipline should probably just say this affects bolters and not missile launchers. But
maybe just change the characters that could join Desolation Squads to remove the fact they could join Desolation Squads.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, I just think that then maybe there might have been a point to keeping the models, but
this sort of change annoys me though, right? Because this is a sort not that I'm even playing Desolation Marines, and even if they were 24 points per model, I played them and they didn't quite fit my play style of like just having a bunch of indirect fire. I didn't really like it. But regardless, I dropped them I think before they even went up their last 34 points. The annoyance for changes like this is I hate it when they bring out new models. They go sell, and then they go nerf to oblivion. And the people that bought them are just sat like, great, what a waste of my fucking time.
Totally agree. It's not great. It's really feel bad.
I really don't like it when... This is why I was a little bit salty with the change to the big units of custodians in some ways, because you've gone out and you've bought all those models.
And spent time painting them. And
spent time painting them.
And attention to them. Yeah, totally agree.
And it's the same with the Agents of the Imperium. I was really looking forward to getting a nice little unit of nice exact squad because I love those models.
Yeah.
I don't want to paint 10. No, I was going to paint 5 as one squad and 5 as the other squad, and now I can't do that.
If you want to go splits on a squad of exaction, then I'll split them with you, and I'll use 5 of them as voidsmen because fuck them.
It'll be like, here's the thing though with the Desolation Marines, it will be probably 2 or 3 years before they're viable again. There's probably a good chance they're not going to be viable at all in 10th edition. Because if you think of like aggressors, for example, or like, what was the ones, the Volkite Contemptor Dreadnoughts, the things that get picked up on early, they get nerfed to a point where they're completely... They actually said in their MetaWatch article, they're like, we don't want to tune things, so you're never taking them. And I was like, you've literally just did that.
And they took great care to tune the Eldar stuff so that it wasn't an overly heavy-handed point.
No, they were very gentle to those poor space elves.
Yeah. Oh well. So Desolators are now dead.
Yep.
Woo. Right. That's the balance update. points next. They did also update the rules commentary document, but there were 2 changes to it, and they were exceptionally minor. So let's just ignore them completely because they don't affect anything really.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So points. What faction do we want to talk about first?
Why don't we start with Blood Angels, because John is getting really upset by the fact we haven't talked about them yet.
All right. Okay. Blood Angels. Page 12 on the points jobby thing. Out on, we got the special graphic and Excel sheet that Smithy has worked up for us. Cheers, Smithy. Much appreciated. Fuckloads of stuff has gone down. Brilliant.
Almost everything has gone down, I think, for Blood Angels. I can't. Our Assault Terminators went up.
Well, for Blood Angels, the Balpred didn't, Corbulo didn't, and Tycho didn't, and everything else Blood Angel did go down.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a bit today, and I think for me, I think the big winner is the Death Company Marines with jump packs.
Yeah, because I think Dreadnought.
The Death Company Dreadnought, but not the Sanguinary Guard.
So the Death Company with jump packs are now 130, Sanguinary Guard now 175. Does the fact that Death Company Marines with jump pack have gone down 25 points make them any more useful against things you're going to be able to use them to kill? Just like Sanguinary Guard.
Well, I think the difference, though, is Death Company Marines can take... They get full hits and in both shooting and in melee, right?
And
at a maximum of strength 8 or 9 on the charge.
Yeah, which I think that the Sanguinary Guard having the less, like quite a bit less strength and no rerolls.
Yep. So really what are you attacking with the Death Company Marines?
Well, see, I put them with a chaplain, and and the chaplain gives you +1 to wound innately. So basically, if you think about it, my Death Company Marines, even in Gladiators, are strength 8 with +1 to wound. Which I think is pretty useful.
That means they're
armor on 4s, realistically.
Everything on 4s.
Whereas, like, Sanguinary Guard, like, you know, they don't have the rerolls to hit, and then what, they're going to wound armor on 5s or 6s? So it's like, yes, I get that Sanguinary Guard are more viable in terms of survivability in melee. You know, they can be -1 to hit in melee, they can also be -1 to wound if they're attached to your Warlord. The problem I have with it is... My guys aren't getting killed in melee.
Than an offensive unit. Yeah,
you know,
which makes sense for a unit of bodyguards. That's kind of fits their bill, really.
I can't see any situation where I would think I'm going to spend 175 points on a unit of Sanguinary Guard instead of spending 130 points on a unit of Death Company.
Yeah, well, that I guess that's my exact point. Yes,
you know? Sure, Sanguinary Guard are better than they were, but that doesn't make them viable now, I don't think. I think you're just going to take more Death Company because they're even better than they were before, and they were already better than Sanguinary Guard. Which is a bit sad.
The most pertinent points drop for me is the Death Company Dreadnought by far.
That was a big drop as well.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big drop.
Yeah, that's like, what, 20%?
Yeah. And the Libby Dread. Libby Dread gone down by a nice little chunk. Yeah, but who's running a Furioso? I mean, it's 150 points. I think it's the cheapest Dreadnought now, possibly, but...
It does mortal wounds whenever it's selected to fight. So I was looking into it relatively recently. It's not a nothing. It's not great. Its guns are a bit poo, but it's not nothing.
Yeah, the Sanguinary Guard can be OC too. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of the reason they're so expensive. But I think for me, in the games that I'm playing, my infantry the second infantry are seen. They're killed. And sometimes they're killed when they're not seen from indirect fire these days. I guess indirect took a little bit of a nerf.
Well, it did in that they just put everything with indirect fire up a good few points.
Except the Whirlwind, which has stayed at 150. Your playstyle, John, though, is very offensive. You're focused on killing as much as you possibly can to the exclusion of all else, as opposed to a more defensive playstyle or sitting on holding things and just not dying. So I totally get your point of view on that. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Do you know, I'd like to play the Sanguinary Guard. I literally have a shelf with like 30 of them completely painted, and they're just gathering dust, man. So
You will again at some
I
point.
will. I just think 35 points per model is not the right number of points.
Yeah.
Even at 32, I'm not sure I prefer them over the Death Company.
Yeah.
Because the Death Company kind of have to be led by the Chaplain to get the +1 to wound, but I think that's what makes them strong, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, without the +1 to wound, we can't kill armor with Death Company.
I think,
and unless you're going to play Red Rampage every time they fight, but I mean, that's going to eat up all your CP pretty quickly, right?
I think
Unless
even if we
you've
factor in
got-
the fact that you want to buy a Chaplain to go with them, I still think
Yeah.
Death Company are better.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. The second you want to attach a Captain to the Sanguinary Guard, you're 275. If you want to attach Dante, you're 295. If you want to do 10 Sanguinary Guard, which I actually think isn't optimal again, because Sanguinary Guard, we all know, used to work best in 7s and 8s. You don't want 10 of them. 10 of them, plus a character, is like just shy of 500 points. Like, it's 470 with Dante, 450 with the Captain. I'm not going to take a 450 point unit of 10, because in the games that I've played, those 450 point units have very rarely killed 450 points and made their points back.
Yeah. And I know, yes, they can have a higher OC, but even with a higher OC, if you're using them to take and hold points, then you're paying a lot of points for an offensive.
Reziel makes a good point,
using.
which we've made before and we'll make again. The changes to only having fixed unit sizes in multiples of whatever and not paying for their weapons on an individual weapon basis based on how powerful the weapons are is effectively power level by another name, and this change is bullshit. And GW, you fucked up doing this. I wish you would walk it back. It's horrible. I hate it.
Well, they're not walking back. They've introduced it to more units with this Dataslate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think 5-man Death Company with jump packs, attaching a character if possible. I was looking at Astaroth today because he's the same price as the Chaplain now. I still don't actually really like Astaroth. He can give you devastating wounds for 1 turn. He can let you fight on death on a 4-up.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that. His weapon profile's pretty crap now. It's like strength 6, 4 attacks, -3, 2 damage. So he himself isn't a strong character anymore.
85 points is nice, but I agree. He's not. You're not going to put him in a competitive list off the back of this.
No. So I think just the generic Chaplain Death Company with jump Marine packs. That seems to be the big winner.
Sanguinary Priests go with Sanguinary Guard.
I thought they were going to do that as well. I really thought that was going to be a change.
I don't know why you thought that was going to happen.
I was hoping for it to happen because it's stupid.
Because the priests
there flies
of the guard.
away the hopium blimp once again. See it crash and burn and explode as the hopium ignites.
Alongside the hope that Mephiston will be allowed to attach to a useful unit.
Yeah. We might see some changes in what models can attach to when Codex Space Marine comes out, because some of the units they can attach to will no longer exist. So there is I will admit to a slim possibility where attachment units could change in the next few weeks. But it was never going to change in this balance slate.
Yeah. I mean, I like Lamar. Riz is talking about Lamartis. I like him-ish, but I think there's too many weapons that make his power, I wouldn't say redundant, but much less effective than it was. Because he's got lethal hits. I still think even if you've got lethal hits, you need to play Red Rampage every time. So if you're, like for me, I'd rather just take the Firstborn Chaplain and not pay the CP every time. And then -1 damage is great, but what happens when you're in a meta when, like, you're playing against Sisters and there's an absolute boatload of autocannons on the table? It's like, well, they're all 3 damage. So -1 damage doesn't really help you. Most of the time, you're not going to pass that double 6 feel no pain, and you still lose the model anyway. So I played Lamartis into Knights as well one time, and the -1 damage didn't help me at all. I lost a 10-man Brick of Death Company in 1 turn up against the Knights. So it's like, even with -1 damage, you're going to still lose 400, 500 points in a turn. It's still rough.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment to acknowledge the fact we got 84 viewers, YouTube tells me right now. Cheers, everybody, for tuning in and watching this discourse. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
If you've decided to support us with a few quid of your few dollars of your money by joining as a YouTube member, you get a free super chat, which you can use to prod something up and make it all stand out, and we'll read it out and answer it and give you a shout out, which is all cool. Otherwise, we'll do our best to answer what we can from the chat, and we'll just carry on talking about Blood Angel, Space Marines, and whatever else we fancy.
What was the old points cost for a Calidus Assassin?
It's gone down by 25, I think. So it's
down by 25
higher than,
But then she took a big nerf with the change to her ability as well.
Yeah,
so it's probably...
stratagems she can affect is now vastly reduced.
Significantly reduced, yeah.
So, yeah, that's fair. I can kind of get with that. Space Marines then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Can I tell you my favourite change about Space Marines before we get into them?
Go on.
Sure, go for it.
Vanguard veterans with jump packs.
Yeah.
The jump packs now cost -3 points per model. Because Vanguard veterans with jump packs are 15 points cheaper than Vanguard veterans without jump packs. So I want to know where they're getting those -3 points per model jump packs. Let's see if we can't get some of them in our Blood Angels list. That would help.
No, really? Hang on a minute.
Yeah, it's 105 for 5 with jump packs and 120 for 5 without jump packs. That was my favourite change today.
And you're still not going to take them.
I'm still not going to take 105, but at least they got those -3 points per model jump packs.
Yeah.
That's mental, that is.
They'll change with the codex in a few weeks anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
So what's gone up? Desolators have gone up. The Lancer has gone up in a shock move that nobody could have possibly predicted, from 145 to 160. I don't think that makes a difference, to be honest. If you're taking it, then that 15-point hike...
still are taking it.
I'd still take it for that, considering how efficient and powerful it is.
You know what I'm taking instead of it?
What, Vindicators, because they went down?
Yeah. I was taking them instead of it before, and I'm definitely taking them instead of it now.
I think Vindicators are so good, man. I love them.
190 points. Absolutely.
They were good at 205, honestly.
Yeah. So going down a little bit further is absolutely giving them a really tasty little bonus.
I don't know why the
What else was anti-armor? Predator Annihilator hasn't changed, but the Brutalis down... Sorry, not the Brutalis. The Ballistus down from 170 to 150.
I like that. I've been playing the Ballistus. I think it's okay. Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, it's maybe as good as a Lancer, because it's 10 points cheaper than a Lancer now,
it's
right?
Survivable. Its firepower is not as powerful or reliable, but it has more shots and it's more survivable than a Lancer.
And cheaper.
It's a little bit more
it's
versatile,
like half the military price,
right?
Yeah, as well.
Because it can shoot 2d6 frags, and its frags are strength 5. It's not a crap frag grenade. It's a good frag grenade. I think it might even be
super frag or whatever the hell. Yeah,
I was going to say it might even have AP on that frag. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
But obviously, the biggest points drop in the Space Marine points review is the Brutalis Dreadnought, down from 220 to 175.
Which is great, but it highlights a problem, I think, with the Redemptor Dreadnought, that the Redemptor Dreadnought is paying like a 40-point tax for that -1 damage on it. And
it's still gone down 15 points.
Yeah, but I think there's still no way you field it. Like, absolutely no. You can't field it. Like, I'm taking Vindicators all day long over Redemptor Dreadnought. So my Vindicator will one-shot that thing. Like, I guarantee you in one turn I can kill it from full health. I just think the Redemptor Dreadnought is a joke.
It's still too many points, isn't it?
My very selfish takeaway from all of this is basically Dreadnoughts across the board have gone down in points. And running Dreadnoughts as a Sons of Sanguinius detachment now feels even better to me today than it did yesterday. And it felt pretty good yesterday.
Because of the Dreadnought change.
Yeah. I'll just run melee Dreadnoughts for days now. Woo! Monsters across the board.
I can't help but agree. I feel the changes to Space Marines. I don't know if they're competitive or whatever, but I said a little while ago that in 10th edition I much prefer running the Blood Angels to anything else, and that still feels the same. I think these points drops made an army that I think John was saying he hasn't lost a game with his super armored parking lot of doom, and he's just gained a load of points to add something else to it.
Yeah. This has just made it better for you.
I'm excited actually to.
Your Destructor's gone down.
My list went down 120 points, and it's won
gone up a little bit.
It's won 6 games in a row. I mean, I think if I'd been...
Your Storm Speeder's gone up a little bit.
I don't know if Storm Speeders feel like they needed to go up, honestly. They're not that survivable. They don't do that much damage. I get they've got nice buffs, but I think they were already pretty expensive at 160 points.
Yeah,
Where the
I
Thunderstrike
wasn't
is the one with the
taking
good
them.
buff.
I don't think that they were worth what they cost at the moment. But
All right, here's another question for you, John. You've been espousing repulsors, quite rightly, for the last few weeks, few months, or however long it's been. And the Land Raiders have come down a junk now. Are you at a point where you consider running Land Raiders, paying the extra for them, or are you going to stick with the repulsors?
I am, but because my list came down so much, I was thinking about dropping a Predator Destructor and replacing it with a Land Raider, because that's literally the difference in my points. And I think there's a lot of value in Toughness 12 units. There's also a lot of value in 2-up wound units.
Yep.
And obviously a las can that a Land Raider's got double las cannons to the Predator. And it's got anti-chaff firepower, it's got multi-melta, it's better for tank shock. DTM was making fun of me last night. He was calling my stream the bumper car stream because we just tank shock it. It's like the stratagems I play are Armor of Contempt, Smoke, and tank shock. But tank shock kills things every game because, like, on a Land Raider, if you charge, you're rolling 10d6 for tank shock because it's strength 8. Same as the repulsor, you're I think you're rolling 10d6. And like it's enough where like you're going to do some mortals. So you fire all your stuff in, you leave a unit with a few wounds, then you just mortal them with tank shock. It's
which is another reason why I like the Brutalis, because you can do tank shock with the Brutalis. It's got a strength 12 melee weapon, and then it itself does mortals when it charges as part of its natural ability anyway.
I know that's really tempting over the Death Company Dreadnought now, the Brutalis. The only issue with the Brutalis is, the Death Company Dreadnought needs to make a 7-inch charge from reserve, whereas the Brutalis needs to make the 9-inch charge. And
however, the Brutalis has got the strike and the sweep melee profiles where the Death Company Dreadnought doesn't. So,
I mean, if you make it in with the Brutalis, you're right. You're potentially just doing that.
It's by far and away the better Dreadnought in its output capabilities, but the Death Company Dreadnought, as you say, is faster, charges more easily, and is a little bit cheaper. I
do like the Brutalis though now. I'm glad it came down that much. I think the Redemptor needed to come down that much as well, honestly. The Redemptor does not need to be more than a Vindicator. I think Mike said in the chat he thinks the Redemptor is versatile. I don't see it. I don't think it's got any versatility because it doesn't have a single gun that kills armor. So yeah,
my
you can be
problem is
versatile if you get in.
that it's got a profile that's not really that good at it. What do you need it for? It's not great for anti-infantry. It's not any use at all really for anti-armor. It's got a target that doesn't exist.
It could be used to kill elite infantry with the plasma cannon, but I mean, great.
That's not what we're having trouble killing.
They're not like meta choices at the moment, really.
I was going to say, if the enemy has elite infantry, jump in with that Death Company Marines with all those power fists and the +1 to wound. You probably wound them on 2s or 3s at that point. The Death Company will mop up elite infantry. You don't need a 205 point Redemptor Dreadnought to do that. Someone was asking about Centurions. Both Devastator and Assault Centurions went down. I'm already running the Assault Centurions at 175 points, and I think they're great. So at 150 points, I think they're totally viable. You just need to deliver them. But Land Raiders went down, and Repulsor stayed the same. I've been delivering mine in Repulsor. Easier to deliver in them a Land Raider, so I think a 240-point Land Raider. The Land Raider, you do get 4 las cannons, you do get a free multi-melta, you do get Hunter Killer, you get that twin bolter on it as well. I think if you want to deliver 3 Assault Centurions, I think they're really good. You just have to go after monsters, vehicles, or fortifications to get the sustained hits too. And then you're twin linked on strength 10 or 11. So, and they're literally the only melee unit that we have that can do 3 damage a hit.
Infantry.
I was going to say except Gabriel Seth, but I mean, let's face it, we're not really running Seth.
Brutalis Dreadnought. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Yeah.
Man, I've got 100 points extra. Maybe I should put Seth on my list.
Oh, God.
That'd be controversial, wouldn't it?
That would be. We might have to, like, I don't know, might have to boycott you or something for that game.
Yeah.
Ooh, not sure.
I was going to say.
Do you know what? I was about to say some snarky comment about the fact that even GW don't like Gabriel Seth, but actually, you don't have any Blood Angel special characters in your army.
None. I've got a Tech Marine and a chat.
So you could very easily just go with Flesh Terrors and stick Gabriel Seth in for no loss. Just the benefit of Gabriel Seth, who is actually a melee character, pretty good one.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Could you fit him in a Land Raider with unit of Assault Centurions?
You could,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You just can't join them.
We'll start calling you Flesh Tearers Commander now.
Expand my audience. It's fine.
Aggressors have gone down a bit. Inferno Squads have gone down a bit. That's great news for my boarding action lists.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. Storm Raven should have come down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all three of those flyers are irrelevant at the points cost they're at right now.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say...
are they going discontinued or Legends or something? Or I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe. Blade Guard down 10 points is nice, I suppose. 3 Blade Guard are very useful.
Yeah.
I don't think Aggressors coming down changes anything for me. I think Centurions are far superior to Aggressors.
And I still prefer Terminators, so I think they've come down a little bit as well. And
yeah, I think, well, it's weird. The Terminator Assault Squad went up, but the regular Terminators went down.
I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. Because
it's because Assault Terminators are more survivable, and GW's got a shitload of new Terminators that they want to sell coming in a new multi-part kit in the next few weeks.
Okay, but I think the regular squad is the better squad anyway. So if you want to run Terminators, you run the regular squad. And then Infiltrators went up. Fine. Yep. I mean, Infiltrators are strong, I guess.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the points hike that they got is not enough to dissuade you from taking them if you were taking them, because the utility they offer is still incredibly good.
No. I think I prefer Heavy Intercessors now over Infiltrators, personally. But, I mean, I guess Infiltrators...
The 12-inch denial is really powerful, especially for things that can come in and deploy within 3 inches.
Or things that can move after they've arrived is pretty shenanigansy. But Heavy Intercessors on an objective in cover are basically on like a 1-up save, right? Because the bonus Heavy Intercessors get is they get to add 1 to their save if they're on an objective. Mm-hmm. So you've got toughness 6, 3 wound infantry for 105 points. If you're on an objective, you get +1 to your save, so you're on a 2-up save. If you're in cover, obviously, you're essentially on a 1-up save. So I think Heavy Intercessors to hold in a backfield objective, yes, maybe they don't have deep strike denial, but they'll punch you in the face or they'll shoot you in the face once you've arrived and done your movement shenanigans, which is maybe good as well. But yeah, I mean, Infiltrators are great. I might fit them into the parking garage.
Invaders irrelevant, Invictors irrelevant, Reavers irrelevant. He's not listed here. I assume he got taken out because he's irrelevant to our listing purposes, but Gilliman went up in points.
What actually happened with Reavers? Sorry, they went down 10 points. Have Reavers ever been playable? No.
Not in 40k.
Not really.
No, never. What a wasted unit they are.
Invicta Tactical Warsuit, that's gone down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Still think it's rubbish.
Yeah.
Gilliman is now 380 points.
Yeah, I mean, Gilliman is really good, though, because he gives you double Oath of Moment. It's hard to argue with that, because...
He was undercosted before.
Oath of Moment is amazing. Infernus Marines came down. I see no use of them whatsoever, ever. Mm-hmm. Intercessors came down. The only people that run Intercessors don't have any other models.
Oh, that's not true. I'm taking them to my tournament in a week and a half.
Shots fired. Why are you taking Intercessors for the sticky objective?
Because James said that I have to take a unit of Battle Line.
Oh. Well, even as Battle Line, Intercessors, Assault Intercessors, and...
Heavy Intercessors.
Heavy Intercessors.
Tactical Squad. So I chose Intercessor Squad out of those 4 choices because the sticky objectives, yeah. You
could sticky an objective, then teleport them away with Librarian Dreadnought. That's interesting.
Well,
Marius saying that
and walk off, but yeah.
Gilliman lost some utility because his free stratagem nerf. I think his move Oath of the Moment onto a second unit though is still amazing. I think
that's the reason why he took him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think it just guarantees 2 units dead every turn, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike, Infernus are amazing in boarding actions. I don't,
totally.
Can't really use them in normal 40k, but in boarding action, they're great.
They're so good.
So, Blood Angels were at a 41% win rate. Space Marines at a whole were somewhere a bit higher. Like, I think 48%.
Do we reckon this will get Blood Angels up to 45% or higher? Considering all the points drops that they've had off the back of this stuff and what has affected every other army in the game. How many points has your parking lot list gone down by, John?
120. So it's 2 Vindicators, it was a Lancer, it was the Ballistus Dreadnought, it was 2 Predator Destructors, the Repulsor, the Centurions, the Blade Guard, a Tech Marine, a Chaplain with a Jump Pack, the Death Company Dreadnought, and the Death Company Marines with Jump Packs. So everything in my list except the Lancer went down in points. But
once I removed the Exaction Squad from my big Dreadnought Stompy Death list, Sons of Sanguinius, my list is now 220 points cheaper.
220, wow. So,
and that includes the Armiger's points hike. I
guess my question though is,
oh yeah, Armigers went up in points to 150.
I know, it's funny.
Warglaives or the shooty ones.
I put out a video about Armigers being too cheap last week. I get so many people flaming me. You don't know what the fuck you're on about, etc., etc., etc.
Blatantly too fucking cheap. The amount
they
of
all
stuff
went up in points. Yeah. So I mean, I just need to reply to all their comments like Vindication, like Captain Holt. But no, I think here's my $1 million question, and I guess chat could answer this question as well. If you were playing Gladius before,
do you want to put a vote in there?
I was going to say more people love more people are. I was going to say more people will.
You completely lost your train of thought now, haven't you?
Every time I ask if people prefer Gladius or Sons of Sanguinius, the answer is a lot of people are just sticking with Sons of Sanguinius. They stuck with it even if they thought it was less strong.
Okay.
You know, people just stuck with it because they're like, that's the Blood Angels attachment. I'm sticking with it. Whereas I lost 5 games in a row with it and went, fuck this, I'm going to play Gladius.
For calculated competitive play, I think Gladius is still the choice. However, we're also about to get 6 more detachments to choose from over the next few weeks as well. So that's all going to get thrown up in the air.
Yeah.
I think that this is not going to affect the Blood Angels win rate at all.
I think
it's going to make Space Marines go better, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the changes to it, whilst they do improve Sons of Sanguinius, they improve Gladius more.
All the improvements that Blood Angels will get off this, they get because of the wider Space Marine changes.
And that's kind of my point. So I don't think it's going to have... If you go pure melee, you're still boned.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you wanted Blood Angels to be like 50%, Sanguinary Guard would need to be...
Yeah, a lot of...
Still cheaper, right? And maybe even like a way to punch up better. Because I don't think they have a very good way of punching up.
My huge major reaction to every single change that has come out of this new points thing and the balanced data slate is that GW have not addressed the inescapable fact that infantry are largely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And you can just field vehicles and they can do everything infantry can do.
Yeah.
That all we need the game in terms of points, in terms of secondaries, in terms of holding primary objectives, all that jazz.
Yeah, Mugen's just summed it up from what I was trying to get out a minute ago. He's written here, if the win rate for BA is people using Sons of Sanguinius, then no, it won't change much because melee is still not the way to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Melee for infantry. I'm still not
infantry melee, especially
that vehicle melee could potentially do something at this rate. I'll have to max out how many melee dreadnoughts I can bring in a list and see how crazy it'll go. But
I don't think their damage is the issue of DTM. I think the fact is you could bring one Castigator tank that's about 100 points, 120, maybe 130 points, and you could kill 10 Sanguinary Guard in a turn. Just means I don't know how you could possibly think of fielding 350 point blocks of Sanguinary Guard if a 100-point unit. How many points is a Castigator tank? Because Castigator tanks are unbelievably good at killing infantry. Every single game I've had infantry on the board, Terminators, Blade Guard veterans, these are all 3-wound models that are arguably better than Sanguinary Guard. And you just bought them all up. I lost every single infantry model I had on the board in one turn.
The tank is now 140 points.
140. So it gets 8 autocannon shots, 4 rerolls to hit and 4 rerolls to wound. And it'll be hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. The second the Castigator's taken any damage, though, I think it's hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. And then it's got 9 heavy bolters on top of that. Heavy bolters are really efficient at killing Marines as well, right? Because The second you start failing saves with heavy bolters, it's 2 wounds a time. So every single failed save is a dead Sanguinary Guard. I don't know, 140 point castigators. I'd be interested to do the maths. All I know is like every time I see those castigators on the battlefield, I just lose all my infantry. Like it feels obnoxious. It feels ridiculous. I don't know how you say it. Just lose them all.
I don't think you want to run no infantry. I think that's possibly going a little bit far. But I do think that balanced armies that lean in a bit more towards armor is the way to go at the moment.
Infantry aren't your main damage dealers. They can't be. Except in a few armies' cases where infantry do have the ability to deal substantial damage, like the aforementioned Eldar Wraith Guard with their strength 14, devastating wounds, death guns.
Yeah, I think the problem though is you can't you talk about Sanguinary Guard could save against castigators on 2s. The problem is you can't get into cover anymore. You kill a tank out in the open, for example, right? You're not in range of another unit, so you can't consolidate. You're not in range of an objective, so you can't consolidate. So you end up leaving your big expensive units out in the open, and then you get no cover save. That's my experience of them. And I mean,
all of the point of view that cover is insanely easy to get with from some line of sight from anyone to anywhere. There's always something in the way that will grant cover.
I mean,
hence the lamppost thing.
Yeah, but melee have been hurt more so with the movement changes, I feel like, than anything else.
Yeah, it's the fact that you can't consolidate out of line of fire. So you charge you and you kill your target and then you die.
Yeah, fair.
And then you just stand. I mean, it was bad enough. I remember in multiple times in last edition, like what Tony said, I would be able to consolidate. I'd kill a unit with my 7 Sanguinary Guard and maybe move 6 of them into cover or something because I get an extra 3 inches of movement afterwards. So I get most of the squad in cover. So I start taking my saves on cover and I still lose most of the squad, even though I managed to get 5 guys into cover. So now it's now you get no one in cover. So you just got your whole squad standing in the open and they get lit up by 2 or 3 units. I don't know. I'm just telling you my experience. I don't like infantry at all at the moment, and I've played against, in the last 6 weeks, I've played against World Eaters, Imperial Guard, Sisters, Chaos Demons, and I forget so it's 5 different armies out of 6 weeks, and there wasn't a single time where I was oh cool, my infantry feel really good in survival in this game. They just felt, in every game, it was the reason I win the game is because I've got a shitload of toughness 10 stuff on the board that's absorbing loads of firepower. And if that was infantry, they'd all be dead. That's my opinion. You can,
Yeah.
It's borne out from your experience so far, which, as people have pointed out and you have admitted, is limited pool based on the people that you
It's limited to my meta, yeah, 100%.
Which is fair enough, but it's still the experience you got to go off.
Okay, should we move on from this bit because I think we've talked about these now for about 40 minutes on Space Marines now.
We have? What else do you want to talk about?
What other ones do we normally care about?
Knights haven't taken much changes, but the Armigers, Helverins, and Warglaze have both gone up to 150 points a model each. Canis Rex is now in 460 points, which is fine.
Yeah.
He's still good. Eldar have gone up across the board, which nobody is really surprised about, or largely across the board. The Agents of the Imperium, the Calidus has gone down by 25 points, but her utility has still gone down. Oh, I did find something else interesting out in my game yesterday with Knights versus Salamanders. Did you know that the Eversaw Assassin has a base movement of 9 inches and can choose to advance and shoot and charge whenever it likes?
Didn't know he had a 9-inch base movement, but I knew that he had. He's also got. Does he not have
hell of a threat range?
It is, but it's not that much of a threat when he gets there these days.
He's got anti-infantry 3 on all of his guns and melee weapons.
But how many infantry is he likely to be charging?
Well, last night he charged Vulcan Heston and got burnt down into death by some flamey aggressors. But yeah, it was fun. The fact that he had an effective 20-inch threat range was
it's quite fun. Isn't it?
Shit! Wow, I didn't see that one coming. That was really.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aradine. Very much appreciated indeed.
Oh, absolutely,
amazing as always.
Nice. Did you notice that support weapons have gone from 55 points per model to 125 points?
I didn't notice. I just kind of glossed over that in all the other changes that happened to them. Their Fire Prism tanks have gone up 30 points as well, from 150 to 180. They're still more versatile and better than Lancers in every way.
Yep.
And they're still absolutely worth 180 points.
I don't know why the Land Raider Banisher for the Grey Knights didn't go down when everybody else's Land Raider did.
Did it not?
No. It's because it's
Custodes
Forge
not dead.
World. That's why.
Oh, fair enough. Then.
The Custodes Land Raider did go down, as did their bikes. They're now 80 points of fail instead of 90 points of fail. Everything else went up, though.
What is amusing is that the Tyranid changes in here are clearly for the new Codex units, because they include all the two Norn big boss jobby unit things in here. Although you can't see their rules until Saturday, and all the index rules have been removed from the app, so you can't see them in the app either.
Yep. Did they put the Achilles Dreadnought up? They fucking did as well. Jesus Christ. When I finally re-edit this video to talk about the changes and that, we slagged that thing off now for being way too many points and fucking useless, and they've just put it up more points.
I don't understand the changes for Custodes at all, man, because I don't. Yes, like you say, they can win up against certain armies, but like they literally have 2 units in their whole codex that can kill armor.
Jesus.
We just had a super chat from Willane. I think I'm going to call it
William.
Willane. Hopefully I've pronounced it correctly. Thank you very much for super chat. Do you think incursors as scouts and spotters, which they give the +1 ballistic skill, I think, will be worth it at 85 points, especially with the land speeder going to legends?
I think the +1 ballistic skill army-wide is pretty nice, to be honest. I mean, if you think about getting +1 to wound army-wide being like 175 points on the Storm Speeder, then I think Incursors at 85 points are definitely a decent option. I think, for me, I'd really hope today to see some sort of way where they had brought, and I might be the only person preaching this, but I do think I would have liked to see some way of infantry and armor being more normalized.
Yeah. And what I don't want to see, though, is what they did back in late 8th, early 9th with POW and battle suits, because crisis suits weren't very good. They just kept making them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until they were like 20 points a model or something ridiculous.
And they're just no-brainers, yeah.
And then that was just silly. So just making infantry free, basically, isn't the way to go. No. They need to give them a proper reason to be there so they can earn their points rather than...
When Workshop were talking about the philosophy of 10th edition, it was going to be that vehicles and infantry were on a sort of like at 2 different levels. Vehicles would rule the open spaces, and they were tough and they were hard to take down, and their firepower would take out whatever it could shoot at. But infantry could move from cover to cover, from area to area, and be more mobile and go places that the vehicles couldn't. So I want to see that, but developed into a little bit further, where infantry can score secondary objectives and vehicles can't. Vehicles are more like the denial, the killy, the holding things, and infantry go out and actually win you the game by holding the points and scoring you the points.
You know, I think that would have been nice, actually, when you mention that way, would have been like, imagine if like just a standard guy, like a Blade Guard veteran at the moment, he's OC1, right? Mm-hmm. And what will happen, at least happen in a couple of my games, is like I'll have 2 Blade Guard left or something in a squad, and they'll be on an objective, but they're there with like a Gladiator Lancer or something who's OC3. Yeah. So it's like these 2 Blade Guard are sitting on the objective, they've got their swords out, they're ready to die for this flag, but it doesn't matter because that like 2 wound tank is just going to sit there, and we can't wound the tank because I can only wound it on 5s or something, right? So you just have these... It happened last night with Andrew, like he's got a character on an objective, and I'm sitting like a Gladiator Lancer on the objective, and it's like your character's completely worthless because you're gonna be, yeah, you can do like 1 or 2 damage a turn to the Lancer, but by the time you kind of finally kill it, the game's over and I've won the game because my Lancer's OC3, for example. I think they should have probably done something like give the tanks a little bit more OC, but give infantry like 300% OC. So like, yes, a repulsor could be OC5, but every Blade Guard is OC3. So if I have 2 Blade Guard, because it makes more sense, they're guys standing holding the flag. The tank's not fucking holding the flag, is it? It's just parked on the objective. So it's like you get to this weird situation now. Maybe Dreadnoughts are different, but you get this weird situation now where you got these tanks on objectives with infantry, and the infantry literally can't do anything. It's just like they're not. You may as well just lift those infantry off because they're never going to out OC that tank. And it's like it feels really bad if you're the player that has the infantry because you're like, what am I supposed to do? Like it's going to take my, like I said, it's going to take my Blade Guard veterans 4 turns to kill that tank because its toughness is friggin' 10 or something, you know. So I just don't know. I just don't. Like there's some sort of mismatch there that I don't know how they fix.
We've said this a fair bit over the past few weeks, and we're probably going to continue saying it for a while. So that's that really, I suppose.
Yeah, I almost felt bad for my opponent because I was just like, right, you've got infantry in that on that objective, but it doesn't matter because my repulsor's OC5, so you can't do fuck all against it. It's mine.
And I'll just like kill 2 or 3 of you easily with this tank.
Yeah, I can actually just ignore you and shoot everything else, and I'll just continue to hold the objective. And there's nothing you can do because best case you're going to do 1 wound to my repulsor, maybe 2 or something, you know, in melee because it's toughness 12.
Yeah.
But that's the game we have at the moment, I guess. What other points do you want to look at? Anyone from chat want us to look at any points?
Yeah. Anything you want us to consider or speak about specifically? We will happily do so, provided we know something about it and we can't be completely uncredible about whatever we talk about.
Oh, we're uncredible. Don't worry about that.
Uncredible. John has also, as a side note, decided that we're going to be doing another YouTube channel, which some of you may express an interest in as time goes by. We've done a first video. We're going to be doing some more and see how that all goes. There's a new Star Wars CCG coming out called Star Wars Unlimited that I was completely disinterested in until John went, we're going to give this a go. And I went, wow, that looks really good. Yeah. Shit, this actually looks really good. I haven't played
this. I was going to say, I haven't played the CCG in ages, man. So...
So that's going to be a thing that we'll be doing over the coming months.
Yeah, it's not going to affect the output for the Grots channel, though. That's still...
No, not even slightly. Incarn movement shenanigans are completely untouched. However, it is now expensive as shit in terms of points to try and field. It's now gone up to... What is it? It's the Incarn. 350 points. Which is very good. It's a lot of points, but you might still be taking it for the amount of utility it brings to an Eldar army.
I think the Incarn should only be able...
The Avatar went up a little bit, but...
Yeah, so 335, the Avatar Arcane, what it brings in terms of resilience and bullying ability for the Eldar is still really good. But then again, if you bring both of them, that's, 700 points?
Yeah, I think the Incarn should have probably been capped on how many times you can teleport a turn, though, right?
Yeah.
I think that would have been more balanced. I guess Eldar will see where they'll end up. Support weapons going up as much as they were. I noticed Wraith Knights went up enough where they can't be reserved now. They're 510 points.
Yeah, you can no longer...
So you no longer strategic reserve the Wraith Knight. And the change Devastated Wounds obviously hurts them a lot. So that's something. The other one... Mike's asking, is anyone considering Dante now he's 120 points? I think Dante seems... Obviously, he's better at 120 points, but...
For fun, yes, but not for competitive play.
I don't think I'm super... So the one character that I thought that sort of was jumping out at me that for Blood Angels was I would have liked to be able to field the Sanguinar. Because I think his...
You still can.
Yeah, I know. I only just have 120 points. I didn't want to change anything about my list.
Oh, right, okay.
I wanted to see if I could squeeze the Sanguinar into my current list. But no, I mean, I think he's certainly definitely useful. I think he's also a good scoring unit, and scoring units are important. So I like the Sanguinar. I mean, I think I liked him at 160. But, I mean...
That opinion is a popular opinion.
Yeah. For me, it also just came down to, like, if toughness of vehicles could just be down 1 or 2 points, then I think he's really, really good. Just...
having a quick look at the Astra Militarum, I can't remember all the points off the top of my head, but I think some of they've had a few points drops. I like the fact that Cassicians are now cheaper than standard infantry squads, which seems quite weird, but quite funny. I think some of the Lemon Rust variants might have dropped down a little bit. They seem a bit cheaper than they were before. 155 points for the Vanquisher seems very reasonable.
Fair enough.
Which is quite nice. Tank Commander's still a bit overcosted. I'm 205. Rogal Dawn 260. Is that down a little bit? Might be down a little bit. I'm not sure.
It'd be nice if they went up and down in a different color. You know that?
It would be much more convenient. I will sit there and work them all through, but I just haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah, I heard Lich Guard were up for Necrons, which was the thing that people kept saying in the chat. They're like, "How are you going to deal with Lich Guard?" And I was like, "I don't know."
There's a little bit of a change for the change to the free strats. I think has altered how Necrons play a little. That was one of the ones that was changed for that. I think it means that you can't quite so easily have infinite Necrons anymore.
Nice. Okay. I haven't had a game against Necrons yet in 10th, unfortunately.
No, I haven't played Necrons yet in 10th, so...
On the subject of Eldar not being hit as hard as people were fearing that they could, I'll take a slightly defensive in favour of GW point on this one. Historically, when an army has been horrifically overpowered and dominant, GW have nerfed things into the fucking ground, and the army has been dead in a competitive sense for the next 9 months, a year, or longer. And I'm glad that they've taken pains not to do that this time. Maybe it was slightly too light a touch, but I'm glad that they're not the dirt under somebody's boot, basically. I feel that is a good thing.
Yeah. We've just had a very kind super chat from Foz. Who do you think will be the new bottom faction? Will Death Guard, Votann, Tau, or Admech still be down there?
Not Death Guard.
Death Guard have had a serious power buff.
Tau is a shooty faction in a shooty meta. Probably shouldn't be at the bottom.
Yeah,
they
should be doing better.
Yeah.
Admech have had a huge points drop, but they're also the world's most expensive army. So the fact that you've gained probably about 300 points in your list means you need to spend about £300 to fill those up. They're about £1 a point.
They're also due a new codex in the next 3 months for the Admech as well.
So
I was going to say their 9th edition codex when it first released was crazy good. So maybe
it was crazy. It was overcomplicated as all hell, making the sense.
Yeah, it was, but it was also crazy good.
I think Votann might still be bumbling along the bottom.
Yeah, I think
fair points drops, but the buff had no real effect on them.
Yeah, I'll go with a toss-up between Admech and Votann on that.
It's Morgan Fall bad at the moment. 125 points. Is that up or down?
Probably down.
I think it's down, yeah.
Admech gets their book in the next batch after Tyranids and Space Marines, so within the next 3 months or so. Votann are not on the roadmap.
Your sister's players in 9th edition literally always took Morgan Val, and I haven't seen her in 10th. And I'm just wondering why I haven't seen her.
Is it worth asking Andrew?
I was just going to literally look at her rules right now and see if for 125
I think
points.
Anton said it on the neck. Morven and the suits are quite cheap and they're quite powerful, but they suffer from the same problem that a lot of things do, which is their strength isn't high enough to damage vehicles.
So
because they're multi-metals on the suits, aren't they?
Yeah. They're kind of another elite infantry killing unit.
That's the point, yeah. Morven Val is now only 5 points more expensive than Dante when you get right down to it.
She was a lot better than Dante in 9th edition, that's for sure.
In 9th, yeah. That was different, though. Yeah. So, overall, John, what do you feel about today's updates? What's your overall impression?
It's very indifferent, isn't it? Like, it's like, if everyone was having problems with GSC infantry respawning, now it's on a dice roll which could go either way. When we talked about it, we'd said that they could have done a token system or something that could have been better. The Eldar, it's probably too early to see if the shakeout helps. I think the Devastating Wound change is a good one. I'm happy with that. I think the free stratagems being obnoxious is a good change as well. I'm happy with
It'll
that.
absolutely help, but will it bring them to 55 or below?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, looking at Morgan Ball, yeah, she has strength 9, which is really annoying. Space Marine changes decent. The Blood Angels changes decent. I'm just not convinced. Like for Blood Angels, as primarily a single faction player, I'm not convinced that the Blood Angels changes are enough for me to just jump straight on and think like Sons of Sanguinius is my best way to play Blood Angels right now. I think I could see myself running more Death Company now.
But ultimately, the points changes haven't changed how the game plays enough so that the issues that you had with Blood Angels have not gone away.
Well, I still don't like Vanguard Veterans even at the new points changes, just because they have no melee weapon options now, and I dislike the strength of the Sanguinary Guard melee and their lack of rerolls compared to Death Company. I mean,
although
the thing...
to be slightly fair there, we might get completely new data sheets for them in the next 3-4 weeks.
For
don't
Vanguard
for the Van Vets, yeah, not for the Sanguinary Guard, I doubt.
Sorry,
that's why I was confused there for a second.
So yeah, for me, overall it's good, right? Like my list went down 120 points. I think I can build something a little bit more versatile now. Like possibly don't need to be quite so parking garage orientated, or tank orientated. And there's definitely some better options, but overall, I think there's still big issues with 10th edition.
What better options? Are you solely thinking Death Company with jump packs here, or is anything else on your radar?
The Brutalis is a little bit on my radar, but I just don't know how to deliver it.
You walk it off the field.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you've got literally no choice.
that's risky. I mean, you could rapid ingress it. That might be the way to deliver it.
Walking off the edge of the board.
Yeah, try and walk it off the edge of the board into a position where you can't be shot or charged, and then get an 8-inch move and a nice shot or charge. That would be how you do it. Because the Ballistus Dreadnought can do like 12 mortal wounds when he charges, right?
Brutalis, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Brutalis Dreadnought. Yeah, so 12 mortal wounds
assuming
plus...
you stack tank, shock, and its own native ability, it could be that many, yeah.
So he's really interesting. He's the most interesting thing that I wasn't running before, I guess. I think. You've got 3 of them.
Yeah, I do.
Well, then you can definitely deliver at least a couple of them. You can just run them all down the middle of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was doing. I split them up into 3 groups. So each war party, a party going down the middle, party going down the left, party going down the right, and each party was a Brutalis, a Death Company Dread, and a Warglaive.
I was going to say,
it's really fun.
I do love it.
I have to say more of it. I really am.
What about yourselves? You guys sold? You like it? Dislike it?
Tony?
Similar to John, really. I think the changes to Space Marines in general have been beneficial. I don't think they've changed how they play. I still think playing a more vehicle-heavy army is still the way to go, and this has just made that way of doing it better. Changes to other factions, if I'm honest, I think are fairly inconsequential points-wise. Sure, we've got a few more things, but a few more things that aren't very good don't really make much of a difference to how things change. The same with that Eldar. The Eldar points have gone up, sure, but really what that's meant is you've lost a unit. Okay. Are they still really good? Yeah. So I don't think it's going to make much of a difference up the top there. Other stuff, Custos, I'm a bit salty about. I don't think that's the change they needed. I wouldn't have a problem with the changes to the unit sizes and things like that if they gave us some possible way of playing a balanced army, but they haven't. They've just said you weren't playing balanced armies before, so you still can't play balanced armies, which I don't think is the way they could have done that. Why on God's earth have they put the Bike Captain up, who is effectively useless by like 35 points? So you take someone who's useless and put him up by 35 points for no apparent reason. As for the main core changes, I think they're all largely warranted. They've hit some armies more than others, and I don't necessarily think they hit the right armies. The devastating wounds, I think, is a much neater way of doing it. And I think the change to towering and lines of sight, I think, was a great thing to do. Although I can see the problem that John identified earlier on with the units slightly hanging out of cover. So overall, changes to the main core game is probably a net minor positive. Points values, I just don't think they're going to make much difference on. But I do think the Space Marines in general have got a little bit of a buff.
No,
Death
which is
Guard,
nice.
President just said there. I mean, just to fill my Death Guard. Death Guard have got a huge buff out of this.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Death Guard on the stream soon, and they'll be a bit scary actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
How long has it been since you played Colin?
I was going to say I've played as demons a couple of times, but not as Death Guard because he felt they were trash. But
I think demons are trash. To be honest, I think demons are far shittier than Death Guard.
It's because they get that shenanigans with Be'lakor, which you can basically deep strike your whole army 6 inches away in turn 2 or something.
You can't do that anymore. They've taken that away. So they've nerfed their ability to do that, and they've still only got melee infantry.
Yeah. The issue though, like for example, if you were playing Sons of Sanguinius against Death Guard and they take that new -1 ballistic skill, -1 weapon skill, that's going to be brutal to play against Blood Angels, especially with the -1 toughness as well from their aura, right? So you're going to be T3, you're going to have worse weapon skill and stuff. Whereas, like, if I play Gladius, well, I'll just blow the Death Guard up with all my Vindicators from 30 inches away with Devastator Doctrine. Great. I mean, like, it's not that I don't want to play Sons of Sanguinius. It's just like you've just given me like really solid options in Gladius that are like no brainers for like, well, that just wins that game or whatnot. Like, why would there's use in the Blood Angels units. Like, I like running the Blood Angels units on top of the Gladius ones because I think it adds like an extra. You know, obviously I'm not an Ultramarines player. Maybe the Ultramarines players in chat would tell me something different. Like maybe, you know, there's a play there where they have Calgar with aggressors or something and they can do the same thing as like us doing like Chaplains plus Death Company, right? But like, I guess you're complementing what you do really well, and Space Marines are a good faction at shooting, it seems like. With Oath of Moment, we're, you know, and with Lancers getting innate rerolls built in and stuff like that, it's like we're a pretty good shooting faction. So let's shoot a bunch of the threats away and then let's charge them and finish them off. And that just seems the way to play 10th edition at the moment. Yeah.
You play balance and then you sprinkle a little bit of flavour on. It seems to be how the way they work. Resi's saying demons are definitely better than Death Guard. I think demons were better than Death Guard, but I think that's flipped round now. Anton asking about how they changed it. They haven't nerfed the deep strike ability per se. What they've done is they've made it so that the stratagems, the free stratagems, and it was comboing up those was how Be'lakor did his shenanigans. So you'd bring Be'lakor and a couple of demon princes, and then you'd immediately take the demon princes off the table. Then you'd rapid ingress them back on again, 6 inches away from the opponents, and that's how that used to work. And you can't do that anymore. Yeah, I think it's for me. It's not. It's still Death Guard. It's still play with the demon engines, but the demon engines combined with the new auras are going to could be, I think, really quite powerful, especially in some armies. But we'll have to wait and see. We don't know yet.
Yeah, so I think overall you're right. I think the rules changes are sort of a positive gain. If you're a Space Marine player or Blood Angels, the points changes are a small positive gain. But
they're tweaks. None of them inherently change how the game was playing. So GW have decided they like how 10th edition is playing, for better or for worse. But it's just like pulling a few things in line here and there to make it, or to try and make it a little bit more even, rather than shake up how the game.
I'm going to go
playing.
out on a limb and say I don't like how 10th edition is playing. Let me say that controversial. I like the rule set. I like that they try to simplify things. I think the joining characters squads is good, but I don't like armor. I just don't like it. Like, it shouldn't have. Like, my meta is completely dominated by armor, and if I take infantry, I just lose every game. And like,
If infantry had access to melter guns that had anti-vehicle 3, for example, that might be more interesting. If they had access to melter bombs that could do serious damage to vehicles in melee, that would be a different matter entirely. But no, they just don't.
I think the removal of 3 damage weapons mostly. I mean, Centurions get 3 damage weapons, but that's it. The 3 damage removal from melee, the removal of +1 to wound, yes, you can get it, but it's going to eat up all your CP, and then the number of tanks and stuff that are just brutally effective at killing infantry has made it that, like, I just don't really enjoy playing infantry at the moment. It's probably that I don't enjoy losing, but
it's almost certainly. But yes,
I feel like at least if I lost last edition with my Blood Angels list, I would have been like after the game, like, oh man, I should have, there's ways I could have won that game with my infantry heavy list. Whereas like now it was like, oh, my infantry all charge in and they just bounce off and don't kill anything, and then they get mopped up because they're out in the open, and it's like, okay, great. We'll see. I need to get another couple of games against Imperial Knights now that the big knights don't get bondsmen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge change.
Yeah, that'll
It'll be
hurt the big
interesting
knights.
because they'll match you for levels of anti-armor firepower and levels of armor toughness. So that'll be an interesting match for you now.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is I think the OC, like the change of not having OC in previous editions to having OC this edition has been good, but I think there's definitely tweaks that we should have there. We shouldn't have like 1 wound tanks running around being able to out OC a bunch of infantry guys. That doesn't make any sense to me. So you've got basically like, if you imagine, if this is, I know it's a game, but if you imagine you had a repulsor who's got 1 wound of 16 left or something, right? That means literally one gun is still working on that repulsor and 1 tank track is still working. This is a disabled vehicle for all intensive purposes, but stopping my 4 blade guard on the objective, holding the objective, where they're all just stood next to the flag. It doesn't. This OC has been an improvement, but I think they need to think about OC and think about like what do they actually want it to be. Because I don't think I agree with where it is right now. I think it's better, but I think it should probably degrade with the tanks profiles. Or I think it I don't think there's, like you talk a lot about wanting to make infantry viable, Mark. Well, if this was like World War II and you've got a tank or a couple of guys on the objective, the guys surely hold the flag. The tank can't hold the flag. No one's fucking holding the flag. No one's reaching out the tank and being, here, I hold this flag. You know what I'm saying?
You're preaching to the choir, mate. This is basically what I said earlier.
I was going to say, the second someone comes out the top of the tank to hold the flag, they put a grenade in the top of the tank and then it's GG. So that's my thought on it. Cool.
Okay, so unless anybody's got anything else that they want to add,
yeah, this is kind of last call now. We've been going for almost 2 hours.
We will have a Custodes episode coming out eventually, but we need to do some fairly hefty re-edits after this.
So it might not be next week at this rate.
At this rate, it's not looking likely to be next week.
Where's the beer? Where is the beer?
I'm too tired.
I was going to say I'll be back next week.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm
okay.
Tired.
It's too hot, and it's
hot,
too new into the new school year for Tony to be wanting to get in Smashed right now on a live stream. Unfortunately,
can't even consider it.
Really fucking hot here right now. Oh well.
Cool.
All
right. Please leave a like on the stream before you head off, guys.
If you value what we do, thank you very much. It's always appreciated. Like, subscribe, share, all that kind of jazz. If our content is worth the price of a cup of coffee to you, please consider joining us as a YouTube member. It's very much appreciated. It supports everything we do. It is awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much to the gifted subs and the stuff like that tonight. It's much appreciated.
Is amazing. All the super chats. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It's so much appreciated.
Last thing, at Brazil, it's the Squidmar t-shirt. That's what he's asking.
I was going to say, well, we do our best to advertise our competitors. Well, I mean, he's not.
I mean, not being funny, he's so far ahead of us.
We haven't got any competitors. It's just
no.
You might think that as arrogant, but no, we're just so far beneath pretty much everyone at this point.
We're beneath everyone else. Okay. All right, leave us a comment. Smithy, thank you so much for becoming a member. What a way to end the stream. Much appreciated.
Sweet, yeah. Smithy's definitely one of the stars of the day.
Yeah, and thanks for doing this.
I have awoken.
Yeah. Have a good one, everybody. Cheers.
Good night. Peace.